I'm Will Hurd. I'm representative from the 23rd Congressional District of Texas. There's indeed a crisis going on at the border. You have last month 144,000 people come into the country illegally. To give some context to that number, all of last year 400,000 people came in illegally. But we need to be addressing the root causes. The root causes is violence, lack of economic opportunity, and extreme poverty in the Northern Triangle. That's El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras. Those are long-term fixes. We also need to make sure that our asylum laws don't get taken advantage of, which is what's happening now. That's why you're seeing people from all over the world now coming into our country. And we need to also make sure that we're reimbursing communities, cities, townships, philanthropic organizations that are actually doing the job of the federal government by taking care of many of these people. Most of the 144,000, those are people that ultimately surrendered, right? And so when Border Patrol, who we don't have enough Border Patrol agents, they're taxed, ICE is taxed. So yes, when Border Patrol is engaged in taking, a couple of hundred people, then yes, you can have somebody following up. You can have drug cartels bringing in drugs into our country because the resources, the men and women of Border Patrol and ICE and Customs, or the people that are at our ports of entry, are overwhelmed by the current crisis. Crime along the border has always been low. That is not something that's unique or new. This is something that a city like El Paso has consistently ranked as one of the safest cities of its size for a really long time. I almost think it's been like 2 decades. You'd have to fact check that. But the level of crime that you see in border communities is very low. Banning ICE is not the solution. Having open borders is not the solution. The way we address this is we got to look at every single mile of our border and have the best tool at that mile. We should be using more technology along the border in order to assess threats, in order to track threats, until we're able to deploy the most important resource we have, the men and women in Border Patrol. The intelligence community and the CIA, it's there to inform policymakers. And ultimately, I spent 9.5 years as an undercover officer in the CIA. I would always listen to the intelligence community and the folks in the CIA over president, potentates, and kings of other places. When it comes to Saudi Arabia, we can make sure that our allies adhere to our standards and the international standards when it comes to human rights, but we can also still work with people in order to go after real threats like Iran. There's a humanitarian crisis right now. The biggest humanitarian crisis in the world is 14 million people in southern Yemen, and that is because of the Iranians and the Iranian support to the Houthis. Iran is not a victim. They are part of the problem.